Hi everybody, and very welcome to Mentor and yet another short video podcast. I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic, and welcome once again to the office. Today I'll be answering a few questions that I've had very recently from you guys, both from inside of the Mentor Aviation application and on the YouTube channel. So for example, do we as pilots always fly the same aircraft? Do we as pilots always fly with the same first officer? And do we fly the same route? Okay, so stay tuned. Okay, so the answer to those questions are fairly simple, all right? It's depending a little bit on your company, how big your company is or how big the base is. If you are going to fly the same aircraft or with the same pilots, okay? Generally speaking, you will not fly with the same pilots, all right? If you're flying at a very, very small base or in a very small company, it can happen that you are rostered together with the same co-pilot or the same captain many, many times. However, if you're flying at a bigger company or a bigger base, you are simply going to be rostered together with whatever first officer or captain who has enough hours to do the flights that you're going to do. So the answer to the first question is no. Most likely you will be flying with many different people, which is great because you have the possibility to learn from all of these people, and everyone is going to be slightly different. Everyone is going to have a slightly different take on the SOPs, for example. And as a first officer, it's great because you'll have the opportunity to ask the captain you're flying with why he or she is doing something in a particular way, and thus learn from their experience. To answer the second question, whether or not we fly the same aircraft, it's pretty much the same thing. If you're flying for a very small company, it might be the case that you're flying with the same aircraft many, many times. But if you're flying with a large airline, like I am, for example, then the aircraft will actually be rotating in and out from the base depending on maintenance schedules. So you might fly with the same aircraft for a couple of days, or you might never fly with the same aircraft, depending on how big the base is and depending on if the aircraft have been rotated out to do some major maintenance, for example. So if you're flying for an airline that has, say, 400 different aircraft, well, then it's very unlikely that you'll fly with the same individual very often. However, does it make any difference? Not really. Because if you look around here, the aircraft that we're flying at the moment looks exactly the same as any of the other aircrafts that is in our fleet. And that is for the reason that we are supposed to be able to fly shift aircraft, basically fly one aircraft during half of the day and then continue out with a different aircraft if it's needed. Okay, so will you fly the same route all the time as a pilot? And the answer to that is no, you won't. Okay, it's the same thing there. Yeah, sorry, we got a little bit interrupted there. So to answer your questions, whether or not you are going to fly to the same destination as a pilot all the time, or if you're going to fly to different destinations, that largely depends on your airline and your base. Okay, so if you're flying for a small airline that might not have too many destinations, well, then it is possible that you might be flying to the same destination or similar destinations quite often. But if you're flying for a bigger airline or you're flying from a bigger base, well, then you are likely to be flying to a lot of different destinations, okay? The airline will always try to utilize your flight hours as much as possible. They want you to fly within the flight time limitations as efficiently as possible. So this means that you might be flying some really long 4-sector days and mixing that up with some shorter 2-sector days to different destinations, depending on what kind of operation your airline is doing. It might be long haul, might be short haul, but the bigger the airline is, the more destinations they have, the more likely it is that you'll be flying to different destinations. So that is to answer that question. So I hope this has been helpful, guys. I really love interacting with you guys, so I hope that you all sign up to my next coming live streams and that you've downloaded the Mentor Aviation app, because I use that to answer quite a lot of the questions, and I also use that for you guys to be able to answer me questions during the live stream. So get the Mentor Aviation app and have an absolutely fantastic evening, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.